telling you, the total revenue that they've grossed for all of the Daily Wire productions totals around $701,000, I think. Kind of sad. Ben Shapiro is upset at me. After all of my many years of yelling at Ben Shapiro and Ben Shapiro only covering me whenever like the Hogwarts controversy happened or because I bought a house or whatever, I have finally gotten Ben Shapiro to notice me and respond to me, but in the saddest way possible, implying or at least proving to me that I've said way worse shit to him throughout this time frame. This is the first time he's replied. It must have struck a chord because I didn't even add him. I said, I saw Barbie last night. I don't get what Ben Shapiro could be mad about other than the fact that he failed as a screenwriter and now everything offends him. To which he replied, I used small words for you, just for you, though. I feel like I have broken him. This took him, this was done at 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. his time. Almost 24 hours later. So I'm going to say, do you not care if Ben hates or likes you? Wait, what? It's weird he's letting you live rent-free in his head in this housing market. That means he totally was watching streamer VOD? No, probably not. I need more people to know that his origin story being rejected from the good wife and his agent said it's because of your politics. Yeah. We can watch the video if you want. I was thinking we watch that video after, because this is a good time to watch that. Because that is like very real, and I think that does make him very upset, it seems. Do we have a screenshot? Does anyone have an easy screenshot for me to post right here of all of the fucking Daily Wire flops, Daily Wire gross movie sales? Because it's like really bad. I think it's like $700,000 total or something. Oh, here it is. I know why that's $800, by the way. It's still funny to make fun of them for it, but that's because they didn't actually release it. They just did it one night. Barbie discourse in the Midwest is weird. People talk about it on eggshells, just like rather or not they are vaccinated. Wait, what? Tell the truth that you've called him small, feminine, a fascist that can't make his wife come, and this is the thing he responds to? Yeah, because this is the one thing that he's like legitimately upset about. All right, that's it. That's it. We cooked them. Now it's time for the double ratio. There it is. There's gonna be a hate train your way, brother. I mean, it's fine. He's gonna talk shit about the source you use in your tweet. Yeah, I know why this is $800. The reason why is because they never actually released it in the theaters. They released it at one theater for friends and family. That's why it grossed $800. I know. I looked into it. The other movies have also been failures, though. Overall, the Daily Wire has only brought in $700,000 total from 3 movies. Okay, it's Will you post on Threads? Also, I don't use Twitter. I don't know how that works. Did you see his new show? Kind of looks like a conservative ripoff of another show. Facts, destroying nonsense. Coming to YouTube on the 29th of July.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
He's still trying to... Oh my God, that's Johnny Harris. Oh my God, he stole Johnny Harris's flow. Bro, Johnny Harris needs to sue him. Oh my God. If I'm Johnny Harris, I'm losing my mind at this, okay? That's actually fucked up. God, he's so fucking lame. He's like, this whole, like, I'm destroying you with facts and logic shit fell out of favor so quickly. It fell out of favor so fucking quick especially because, like, so much of the nonsense that they're advocating for is quite literally devoid of facts and absolutely dependent on their own personal feelings on the matter. So he probably demanded his editing team to steal it too. Yeah. Anyway, let's activate the ratio. What is happening? Yeah, people used to think Ben Shapiro was a genius back in 2014, 2015 until he posted more. Yeah, a lot of... Dude, the New York Times did a write-up of the IDW, if you remember. Barry Weiss's, like, incredible article calling him an intellectual gladiator for the right. You know? Anyway, the Daily Wire movie revenue was $300K. Yeah, I'm telling you, the total revenue that they've grossed for all of the Daily Wire productions totals around $701,000, I think. New TikTok Zoomer style is so sad to watch. You hate to see it. Yeah, even my fucking normie friends have been telling me, like, they find it really weird that Ben Shapiro, they find it real suspicious that Ben Shapiro's, like, hired a stylist and is, like, trying to be more appealing to Zoomers. And that's why he's wearing the denim jacket and stuff like that. But the thing is, like this doesn't work if you're Ben Shapiro. You know what I mean? If you've built an entire career off of being like the suit wearing guy online, and your entire personality is like wearing a suit and being really, really serious about things that are not supposed to be serious, if you're caught saying wet ass P word, for example, okay, you can't do actually a cool guy now. Like, I'm a cool guy that's appealing to the younger audiences. Like, you can't do that. Even I can't fucking do that. Okay? And I'm 32. And I haven't had the Ben Shapiro style. Isn't that the target audience of Daily Wire? They gain a sizable audience in 2016, Gamergate millennials, and need to dip into Zoomers to continue to grow. Yes, every political commentator is going through that same phase at the moment, myself included. Zoomers are not exactly interested unless it's like some esoteric Nazi shit or some like crunchy granola spiritual shit. Most Zoomers are just like, I don't give a fuck about this politics shit. This sucks. We all did our part. We threw up the black fist during the Black Lives Matter protests, and that never went anywhere, so I am no longer interested in this stuff. You know what I mean? Give me the skibbity toilet all day, every day. That's what I care about. I want to know about skibbity toilet. I'm 19. I watch you. Guys, all of the Zoomers in my audience right now are not exactly the norm. Let's be real. Okay? I know you there's plenty of you in here right now, but you guys are not the norm. Whether the older Zoomers are like 20 to 22 right now, I just think you have to give us some time more before they get smarter and want to do good. Anyway, every generation thinks the next generation doesn't give a shit. I mean, most people don't give a shit. Every generation doesn't give a shit. Let's be fucking very real about this. Ultimately, if you live in America, the system is designed for you to not give a shit. Why would you give a shit? Who are you going to vote for? Joe Biden? Okay. What's Joe Biden going to do for you? Is he going to change your life? You know what I mean? I think a lot of people also have fatigue post the Trump era where they just like don't want to pay attention to politics anymore. And that's why they voted for the normalcy candidate with Joe Brandon. And that is exactly what happened. The normalcy candidate brought things back to normal. At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. You know what I mean? And everybody knows that. And everyone is already ready for it. They just don't want to hear about it. So they go and they subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting their Amazon Prime accounts to their Twitch accounts, where they get one free Prime subscription a month. Right? And that's what they do. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. MB Chaos, thank you for the 5 get the subs, allowing 5 people to no longer those ads. MKD50 with another 50 big ones. Our juicer. If you're 18 right now, Biden fucked you over with debt. They tried to change stuff with BLM. Nothing happened. So, of course, they're not motivated. Yeah. They did stuff outside of like immediate electoral politics. It didn't work. They did stuff within the realm of electoral politics. It didn't work. No one is inspirational. And the system is designed to just yield the same outcomes that it does no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try. So I think a lot of people have just like kind of given up. Moth666, thank you for the 5 get the subs. I'm 21, and a lot of people I know are either going very neo-lib or Andrew Tate entrepreneur route in Canada. I mean, even then, you're talking about like people who are invested in some kind of political ideology. Anyway, does anyone have that antiquated video of Ben Shapiro talking about his failed screenwriting aspirations with that old lady on public access television? I found a Majority Report clip, but I want to get the OG one. Because it's this clip, chatters. It's this. This is what we're looking for. But I want to watch the full one, uninterrupted, with Sam's ahs and pauses. Also, R.I.P. Michael Brooks. This is the video.
By the way, Connie ends up being very cool.
Yeah,
everybody's laughing.
She owns him
Center.
before the BBC.
Connie Martinson talks books. Let's see if I can find the interview. Oh, there it is. Ben Shapiro, primetime propaganda. This is a very unique way to understand what Ben Shapiro's inception is and why he feels the things he feels, specifically resentment towards Hollywood. Because remember, Ben Shapiro grew up in California. No matter how much he tries to LARP his way out of that, he grew up in California. His father was a musician. He's a classically trained musician himself, and he always wanted to be a part of Hollywood. This is his villain origin story. This is the book he wrote about Hollywood after Hollywood rejected his scripts. Reminder that Ben Shapiro's weird vendetta against Hollywood began when he was denied a writing job on The Good Wife. Shapiro, an aspiring scriptwriter, said he has direct experience. He was close to getting in the door with CBS The Good Wife, but then got a cold shoulder. He had no idea why until his agent told him. Another agent at his firm Googled him and discovered his political leanings. I read his book 7 years ago and I totally believed him because I couldn't find any openly Republican actors or directors except Kelsey Grammer. But in hindsight, I think he was half right. Conservatives do get blasted, but not because the producers hate them, but because of what? Sucking?
Hello, welcome to Connie Martinson Talks Books. You watch a TV show and you start laughing, but afterwards, do you think about what maybe was said or what you've been really recommended to believe? My guest today, Ben Shapiro, has written Primetime Propaganda, the true Hollywood story of how
beautiful.
the left has made our country, took over your TV, and it's published by Harper. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks so much for having me.
And I guess one has to think about things we've laughed at, but you seem to pinpoint the authors of those shows as being liberal Jews.
Well, not all of them. I mean, Susan Harris is not Jewish. There are plenty
Nor
of...
is Gary Marshall.
Nor is Gary Marshall. I certainly don't say that all of them are Jewish. There's, of course, a lot of Jews in Hollywood, but that's because there are a lot of Jews at the top of any industry. Jews happen to be very hardworking.
No. It isn't just that. They have a point of view that can be considered comic and humorous.
That's true. I mean, there's a unique brand of Jewish humor, and that's been true since the beginning. I mean, go back to your show of shows. Everybody in that writer's room is a New York Jew. And that's good. I mean, this is good stuff. This is not a rip on Jews. I mean, that would be ridiculous. The point, and by the way, one of the points I make in the book.
Yeah. Right off the jump, this is a contentious interview. Okay? Right off the fucking rip. Connie Martinson's got fucking, she's got some words for Ben. Okay? She has got some words for Benny Boy from the jump. Came in hot. Okay?
Is that the people who write TV are incredibly talented. That they have a political agenda, but they're very talented.
Well, let me say, I've yet to know of too many conservatives, which is where you put yourself, who are funny. I mean, it has to do with a humor that is transferable to everyday living.
I mean, I utterly disagree with that. I think there can be conservatives who are funny. Liberals may not find them funny.
All right.
I mean, okay, Ann Coulter for conservatives is funny. Okay, for liberals, she's not funny. Bill Maher for liberals, hilarious. For conservatives, not funny.
Oh, look how things have changed.
Okay, there's
well, that depends because you're using politics as the form of their humor. But
Bill Cosby is relatively conservative.
Today.
Oh.
Yeah, and no, even back then. That's you know, the idea that conservatism is inherently unfunny is not true. It's that conservatives have abandoned the playing field of humor and narrative. I'll agree with you there. I think that they've totally run away from the battle. But that doesn't mean that there's not the capacity within conservatives.
No, conservatism, I think, is inherently not funny. It's not. Because there's really nothing funny about, like, humor is supposed to point out the ridiculousness of our existence, but it's inherently degenerate. And if you're a conservative, your job is to basically go back to prior norms. Like you fear change. Now, I think in modern day, a lot of liberals have gotten a very conservative attitude towards humor, which has kind of bastardized the realm of comedy a little bit. Conservatives are funny unintentionally. They're not funny deliberately. Conservatives are fucking hilarious. They're even funnier than liberals. And liberals can be funny as well, but conservatives are extra funny. But just they're not when they're trying to be funny.
Conservative thought to be funny.
You talk about having conceived of the plot for a TV series and worked with Lenny Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a comedy? Was it sitcom? Was it drama?
It was more of a dramedy. It was based on Harvard Law School. It was a dramedy. I've written a couple comedies, kind of hour-long dramedies for, spec script.
And have they been bought?
No, because no. And there are a couple reasons for that. One is that it's hard to sell anything in this town.
Yeah, thank you.
Period. Regardless of political viewpoint. And the other is that, and especially a breakout series right from the get-go, right? I mean, it's hard to sell a spec script. You start as a baby writer. I mean, you know the process.
Yeah. Have you worked continually with Lenny Goldberg since?
Yeah, I worked with him for several months afterward, and then he got sidetracked with Unknown and with Blue Bloods on CBS and all of that. Like everything else in Hollywood, things go into development, and then they kind of get sidetracked. They go sideways for a while. So.
Well, do you think the book will help sort of open the door with him again?
That wasn't the point of the book, but he knew what was going on with the book. It was not a hit job on Leonard Goldberg. I treat him very well in the book. In fact, most of the people in the book I treat very well for the most part. I talk about how talented and brilliant they are. I talk about how great their shows are, which they are. And that's not a bad thing. I just point out that, look, I'm a legal realist. I'm a lawyer. I went to Harvard Law School. And in law, the idea, there's an idea that was promulgated by the left in the 1960s called legal realism. What it was is the idea that your politics are going to come out in your interpretation of law. That is the same thing that's true in art. Okay, your politics are going to come out in your creation and interpretation of art. And that's one of the points of the book. The people who I'm talking to are not bad people. A lot of them are not. Some of them are not even doing it purposefully. Some of them are doing it purposefully. But it's coming out in their work. And the one thing, above all, that Hollywood does right now that is utterly despicable is that they keep people who are not of their political ilk out of the business, period, end of story. I have them on tape admitting this. I have high-ranking members of the WGA. I have high-ranking members of the Caucus for Producers, Writers, and Directors. I have high-ranking members of the DGA. I have people talking about this openly and recognizing that it occurs.
I find that a little hard to believe because...
look at the tape.
Well, I'd like to see the tape, only because my husband, who's a conservative, was a very famous director at a certain point. And I just try and think... being Democrat or Republican or whatever, very rarely came into the conversation.
Although
I will say we were cleared by the FBI.
Well, I think that it comes into the conversation mainly in terms of if it's made part of the conversation, it becomes a problem. There is every major conservative that I know of, and I know virtually all of them in Hollywood at this point. None of them started off as conservative when they got into the business. or at least they weren't openly conservative, or they're still not socially conservative.
Well, do me a favor. Define for me what is a liberal.
Okay, a liberal is somebody who believes on social policy, believes in, we'll use the key issues, they believe in pro-choice, they're pro-gay marriage, they believe in big government with regard to growth of government on domestic policy side. They believe the government should be used to redistribute wealth and rectify the inequalities of everyday life. And they believe that on foreign policy, for the most part, we should attempt to solve things through diplomacy, not only as a first measure, but as a last measure. And if we cannot agree on a diplomatic means of solving the problem, we should hardly ever commit the military. So I think that that's a relatively basic
conservative
summation.
is?
A conservative would be almost the opposite, right, with regard to abortion and gay marriage, anti-abortion, anti-gay marriage, much more for the acting out of traditional religious values in everyday life. With regard to government.
Dude, this is really funny to me, I think. I mean, he's just describing qualities that you would consider hilarious. You know what I mean? Like overall, just really funny aspects of I mean, he's really making a good argument as to why conservatives are fucking laugh out loud hilarious.
Government, much smaller government that does not interfere in the economic market per se, much more laissez-faire.
How do you feel about overpopulation?
I don't think that overpopulation is a problem.
Oh, okay. The other is...
I think bad government's a problem. I don't think overpopulation is a problem.
Around the world?
Around the world.
Okay. There are those who will disagree. The other is...
I mean, I wonder what his takes are on this stuff now, because this is like 11 years old. He's not wrong about the overpopulation not being a problem thing.
I do know, having talked with some of the ultra-conservative, that they are very concerned, as you said, about anti-abortion, but they don't care about schooling. Where the government would come in, there is definitely no action.
I mean, they seem to be kind of separate issues to me. I mean, you can be for the not killing of fetuses or babies, and also be for less government intervention in education. We're spending a ton of money on education. Our education has been consistently worse every year for the last 50. So the correlation between government spending and better levels of education is completely misplaced.
Well, I was thinking in terms of the free food lunch for kids who don't have food at home. Anyhow, let's get back to television and...
Wait, did he say fetus and then correct himself again? Or did he say fetus and then correct himself to say baby?
Misplaced.
Well, I was thinking in terms...
Government education and also issues. I think bad government's a problem in everyday life. With much more for on foreign policy, for the most part, I
feel about overpopulation. The other is...
I think bad government's a problem. I don't think overpopulation is a problem.
Around the world?
Around the world.
Okay. There are those who will disagree. The other is, I do know, having talked with some of the ultra-conservative, they don't care about schooling. Where the government would come in, there is definitely no action.
I mean, they seem to be kind of separate issues to me. I mean, you can be for the not killing of fetuses
not killing of fetuses
or babies,
or babies,
and also be for less government intervention in education. We're spending a ton of money on education. Our education has been consistently worse every year for the last 50. So the correlation between government spending and better levels of education is completely misplaced.
Well, I was thinking in terms of the free food lunch for kids who don't have food at home. Anyhow, let's get back to television and people such as All in the Family. What bad came out of that? What instincts were given to the population that made them lose their sense of values?
Well, I mean, I think that when you look at All in the Family, the chief thing that came out of All in the Family that was problematic, in my view, is the portrayal of conservatives. Archie Bunker is not a conservative.
But this was
Archie
the
Bunker
British,
is a bigot.
You know, the show did not originate
That's
in America.
Right. It was based on Until Death Do Us Part, which was a British show, and it was adopted by Norman Lear and brought over here. Yeah, that's correct.
And it still had the same premise over there.
Yes and no. Okay, it had a very class-based premise. In Britain, it was all about upper class versus lower class, like most class-based comedy is in Britain. It was about elites versus people at the lower level. This was not that, right? I mean, if you look at Archie Bunker is a lower middle class guy who's living in a small townhouse. He's blue collar worker, and this was Norman Lear's picture of.
I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. You lost me.
What a conservative looked like. A conservative looked like a hard hat, lower class guy who's ignorant about the world around him and is big.
Yeah, except at the time, that is not how, first of all, that is not how fucking back then conservatives were seen and perceived. He's talking about like a Nixon era change. The notion that like hard hat wearing guys that are blue collar are actually like Republican Party voters portrayed against like the anti-war hippies is a relatively newer phenomena. And at the time, the like a lot of the hard hat wearing motherfuckers were voting for the Democratic Party. A lot of the hard hat wearing dudes were I mean, a lot of the blue collar types were not necessarily always conservative. They were definitely like the way that conservatives were perceived. The way that conservatives were perceived back then was the what's the guy that debated Gore Vidal? William F. Buckley. Like incredibly elitist, incredibly openly elitist, wealthy, defending the interests of the wealthy. Like they were all seen as like elite society guys.
Bigoted across the board.
I think that's really too big a generalization for Norman Lear to think that. He came from a family in Boston that was not that well-to-do himself. So
why are you talking about this? The show's not about that. I mean, I haven't seen the show. I'm just talking about, but the time frame that show existed on. I don't know anything about Norman Lear. I don't know about Archie Bunker. So I don't know what that is.
He was seeing the humor of the man struggling at that point. Again, you talk about MASH, Vietnam. We were in Vietnam and not very few people spoke Vietnamese. And it was a war that didn't really come out right.
Well, we can argue the politics of Vietnam, but the point of the book is that there was a clear political position being taken by the folks who were talking about Vietnam on TV. Right? What Hollywood has always lied about is the idea that they are market-based actors, that they are completely and solely concerned with the dollar. This is the excuse that they always go to.
I love that Ben has been advocating against the material realities from the jump. No, they were always fucking market-based actors, dude. What the fuck? What are you talking about? I mean, there's no better example of this than what I dunked on him for, which is that your content is mid, it fucking sucks. There are certainly, conservative art and conservative creators of art, or even straight up Republican creators of art, but ultimately, Hollywood in and of itself has a lot of conservative aspects to it. But there's a reason why your movies are not gangbusters and a blockbuster sales that are just crushing Hollywood. If it was so simple, then your inherently conservative movies would do really well. You know what I mean? Archie Bunker Clips crazy TV show?
Lesson. You don't know nothing about Lady Liberty standing there in the harbor with her torch on high, screaming out to all the nations of the world, send me your poor, your deadbeats, you filthy. And all the nations sent them in here. They come swarming in like ants. Your Spanish PRs from the Caribbean there. Your Japs, your Chinamen, your Crouch and your Hebes, and your English fans. Come in here, and they're all free to live in their own separate sections. Where they feel safe, and they bust your head if you go in there. That's what makes America great.
Some of these doctors will tell you anything you want to hear.
He's the best there is when it comes to blood. My own cousin from the hospital said so.
Your cousin from the hospital empties bedpans. Don't make him out no specialist. I know what Dr. Feinberg said.
Feinstein.
Feinstein, Feinberg, it all comes to the same thing, and I know that tribe.
I know that tribe. He said they're Jewish doctors. Yeah, that's Wait, this feels like Norman Lear shows were famous about talking about racial inequality using satire. No, this is awesome. I think he captured the essence of like why conservatives are funny unintentionally. Yeah. Yeah, he's not the guy that you're supposed to aspire to be. He's the guy that you can see the other side of, but like he's the joke. You're laughing at him. I mean, this is 1 minute. I've watched 1 fucking minute of the show, so I don't really know that. I don't really fully capture it, but I feel as though he's not. You're not supposed to laugh with him. You're supposed to laugh at him. You know? And it's decent writing when you actually find a guy and capture the essence of conservatism and why conservatism can be funny in a cartoonish way by showing them as like not the main character that is supposed to be the good guy.
I'm telling you, Archie, them kids don't leave this house until Mike can provide for her proper.
Oh, boy. 4 years before I even begin to make a living. Seems like forever.
Well, let me tell you.
Eddie Murphy had an insanely expensive to make claymation show in the late 90s that took elements of Archie Bunker for the main character, and every season for that show is on YouTube in full. Very funny show. Jesus Christ, that seems sick. It's called The PJs.
Yes, sonny boy, the same thought crosses my mind at least once a day. Gloria, you married the laziest white man I ever seen.
The writer of the show sounds really awesome. He quotes James Baldwin and stuff about white culture. So kind of like Always Sunny. Yeah. Fucking morons. Why take the PR hit? The Church's Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has filed a lawsuit against his own insurance providers demanding they cover the cost of a child sexual abuse lawsuit settlement after being told the cost wasn't high enough to be covered. Oh my God. That's awesome. What a fucking wild thing to do. All right. Well, anyway, that's Archie Bunker. We got it a little bit. Let's continue.
Okay, when you talk about politics on TV, no, we're not concerned with politics. Oh,
wait, there's insurance to cover claims. I love it. I love that. That's my favorite, come to Jesus moment, if you will. Whenever I talk about churches that get insurance specifically against child molestation lawsuits, which is a very real type of insurance. Okay. And people find out about it for the first time. They're like, what? How do you do actuarial sciences on like the likelihood that your priests and pastors and whoever the fuck is in your clergy? Is that what it is? I don't know. Where, you just have to make the math work on that, where you're like, what's the likelihood that they're going to fuck boys here? It's wild.
all we care about is ratings. The point of the book is that that's not all they care about. And when they say that's all they care about, that's an excuse for them to push their politics in their programming. And that's what they do on a repeated basis.
By the way, you never mentioned the Westerns and the shows that were done at Warner Brothers under Jack Warner.
Oh, no, I did talk about those in the 50s. I mean, I mentioned Gunsmoke as one of the top conservative shows.
It wasn't one of their shows. It was Maverick, Cheyenne.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, in the book, I talk at length about the history of TV, and I say that TV didn't really move to the left until you hit about 1970, right? So in the 50s and 60s, TV was much more moderate in terms of political orientation. All the shows that you just mentioned, All in the Family, MASH, those are shows that come about in 1970, 71, 72 with CBS, right? Those are that only comes about in the early 70s. I talk about it in very specific terms about the transformation of politics on television, which, like I say, only really occurred and only really switched over heavily liberal in the early 1970s.
Are you going to run for politics?
Yeah, at some point maybe. I'd consider it.
Yeah.
What?
As what?
Well, I mean, presumably, if the parties stay where they currently are as a Republican.
Yeah. Not a Tea Party?
Oh, well, the Tea Party isn't an independent party.
Yeah. All right. And let me say, there's much to be discussed in this book. Anyhow, thank you very much for coming.
He's like the anti-Tarantino, just A-worded espousal with a very skewed view of visual media history. Yeah, I mean, he's always been like a culture. He's always been a cultural critic from the jump. Whether it be on porn, whether it be on any kind of media, and he's always kind of missed the mark. His entire career is riddled with stuff like this, including massive failures, and just like attempts at trying to write fiction. But you know, that kind of, I think, gives a lot of, that kind of shows you where his motivations are, or what his spite-driven rhetoric comes from, where his spite-driven rhetoric comes from.